Right.
All right.
Shall I start?
Yep.
Okay, so today I'll be talking about why graphic design matters more than you think. I think graphic design is a very overlooked part of visual novel development. So today I'd like to go through the reasons why you should pay a bit more attention to it than most people normally do. So just a quick background about me. I've been a UI logo designer for VN since 2015. I've produced my own VNs as well, 3 of them so far since 2015 as well, and I've been the admin of the LevVN Discord on Twitter over the last few years, which has been a really nice way of seeing what's been going on in the industry and the community and what people have been up to. So I'd like to think graphic design is my main area of interest when it comes to VNs. I did a talk last year about the unified visual aesthetic and why that's important for VN development. But this year I'd like to do a quick overview of why graphic design is more important as a whole. So why is graphic design important? I think it's a very subjective thing, but I'm going to break it down into 3 main elements I've identified. Hopefully that resonates with people looking to get into the subject a little further. First off is brand. I'd like to consider branding as the main way to sell your game before it's even finished. This ties into my talk from last year a little bit in that you should have a uniform set of guidelines that you follow whilst marketing your game. So why is graphic design useful when it comes to branding? It mainly comes down to how you promote your game on places like social media or on Discord. You might want to post things like character bios, casting calls, or general announcements, or announcements about sales, or even memes to some extent at the end of the day. Graphic design is not only important in creating these, but having the skills and the good footwork to produce them can really make these stand out, particularly when it comes to people scrolling through social media and their feeds. It's important to have a brand that catches people's attention. Secondly, I'd consider visual quality another paramount aspect of graphic design. A lot of people may overlook your project, even if the artwork is good and it stands out, if your branding and graphic design materials look like they haven't been made without much effort put into them. So here's a quick example I made from one of my own projects. As you can see on the left, the character bio has some uniform style to it with the fonts match and a lot of information is presented. Whereas contrasting this with the one on the right, everything seems rather simplistic and nothing really matches. One big benefit of that is that it's easy to read, however, which may be a hindrance if you throw too much information onto your images, like the one on the left. The background's clashing with the text too much, so it might be hard to read. Finally, engagement is another important aspect of graphic design. Using images and media is an important way to engage with your audience. As I mentioned before, things like casting calls or sales are an important way to get information about your project out there. It's important then to go into the extra mile when promoting your project, particularly if your other art is of a decent quality. You don't really want to let yourself down or your project down by doing the bare minimum when it comes to graphic design. So how do you improve your project's graphic design? One way is to learn the skills required yourself. This might be buying a Photoshop subscription or getting free software such as Paint.net or GIMP. This can be fun and enjoyable in its own right. It's a very low cost option of producing your own marketing materials. However, one drawback is that you might need to take time out of other development activities, particularly if you're starting from scratch, trying to learn these skills for yourself. You might not always have the best artistic sense either, so in which case it might be better to leave your branding to someone else, such as an established graphic designer. So there are some positives to hiring a graphic designer. You'll be working with someone who has the experience of creating assets like these, not only for things like social media posts, but things like crowdfunding campaigns too, or go in the hallway and hire them to do your user interface as well, or vice versa. However, graphic designers normally don't work for free, so unless your project has a budget to accommodate this, then it might not be the best option for you economically. And then to conclude, graphic design is an important skill in VM development. It's a fun and useful way of making your visuals and branding stand out. So it's important to direct some consideration towards it when making your project. Your graphics are just as important as your writing or character art and music, so don't neglect them. It's my message at the end of the day. And that's probably well in the time, so I talk too fast, but thanks for listening. And if you have any questions or comments or feedback, please feel free to get in touch with me on Twitter or Discord, or let me know here and I'll be happy to answer them. I think there are a lot of good aspects to graphic design, and I could go into a lot more as well, even though I'm quite under time, but I'm not exactly the best at presentations, so thanks for listening.
Whoa. Cool. All right. Are there any questions? I had to run off and look at the kid for a sec.
That's all right.
Okay. Questions. Is there anything in the chat that I didn't notice? There's a question in Zoom. Let me look. Do you recommend have recommended resources for people looking to start learning about graphic design?
Yeah, I'd recommend looking to free software mostly. I use Paint.net, which is a free Windows program, but there's no Mac equivalent. So GIMP is probably another good option, unless you want to fork out for a Photoshop subscription. But I think just taking styles you like from reference images and then trying to emulate them the best way you can and learning the skills you need to do different effects on text, different effects on images, etc., is a really good way to start getting into graphic design.
There was a question in the Discord as well from Krysholva. What are common rates for hiring a graphic designer? I know it depends on the workload and project.
It depends on what people really need, really. For user interfaces, I've seen rates between $100 and $400. So it depends on who you hire, really. I don't charge that much personally for my own UIs, but I know that ranges per person, so I can't really give a decent figure for that.
I don't see another one, so just randomly, when did you realize that graphic design was in fact your passion?
Probably around 2013, because I started using Paint.net, software I use to do like mini things for my high school, and then I turned that into a way to make money for visual novels. So that's probably when I'd start the date on it.
Okay, so I think Manuel is up. Yes, Maxi, yes.
Yep.
All right, you're up. Time. Thank you so much, Steve. And thank you, Cody, for just hopping in on there.
Check if it's, is it showing properly? Did that 1 second?